Hi everyone. So last night I took a class at Pinot's palette and made this lovely Sapphire Moon painting. And when I got home, I thought to myself, what would happen if I tried to duplicate this using Copic markers? So that's what I did, and that's what tonight's episode is about. The supplies that you need to make this card are all set forth on the screen in front of you. So let's get right to it. You're going to start by taking your A2 size piece of Neenah cardstock and taping it down to a piece of cardboard using some post-it tape with about 1/8 of an inch border on all sides. Then take a 2-inch circle punch and punch out a hole into another piece of cardstock. Use the negative part of that stencil to draw in the outline of your moon using a C1 Copic marker. And then we're going to start shading in the area around the moon using that same C1 Copic marker, going in a circular motion around the card. So, you're not going to be able to go all the way around in a circle, so just turn the paper as you need to, and you want to just keep drawing in. What we're doing now is we're making the halo around the moon, the little glow. And then we're going to go in with a darker marker to make the evening sky, again in a circular motion. So I'm just going to keep going with my C1, and I will be back in a second when we start filling in the rest of the night sky with a C3 marker. Okay, so now we're going to start filling in the rest of the sky with a C3 marker, again in a circular fashion, and you just want to hug the edges of the original halo that we drew around the moon in the C1. And just keep turning the paper as you need to keep your circle pattern intact. And then we're going to go up into the upper right-hand corner and kind of fill in the edges of the sky. And now moving towards the bottom of the paper to fill in the bottom. We're not going to go all the way down to fill in the entire card because we are going to fill in the bottom with some blues, with a mountain range and then some water. Now I'm taking my C1 again, and I'm going to try to make the C1 and the C3 blend together a little bit better around that halo. Now we're going to draw in the horizon line, and we're going to use a B97 marker to do so. And I used a ruler just to try to get it straight. Next, we're going to draw in our mountain range, again with the B97 marker. And then we're going to fill it in with the same B97 marker. Your mountain range can be whatever shape that you like. You just want to make sure that it is beneath the moon, because we're going to put some branches in front of the moon later, and that it tapers off to a point on the left side of the paper, because that's where we're going to place our tree. And here it took me a few tries to get my mountain range exactly right, but that's okay because we'll have a couple of chances to fix the shape of our mountain as we continue to work through this little Copic painting. And if you notice that I sound a little extra peppy today, it's because I just had a cup of coffee and it's the evening, and I never do that because I really can't handle caffeine that well. Okay, so now I am going in and I'm filling in the rest of the background with C3. There was that little spot in the corner that was white, so I filled that in, and now I'm just gonna go around the entire background again with the C3, and then we're gonna go back and take our C1 again to try to get the blend right. Basically, whenever you add a darker color to your background, you're going to have to go back and blend the edges with your lighter marker just to make sure that everything stays blended and neat. Now is the fun part. This is pure fun. We're drawing in the water, and you're just going to take a B91 marker and start from the edges and just move your marker across the page in a flicking motion. Don't think about it. Don't try to make the marker go in any particular way. Just kind of flick and have fun. Then we're going to take a darker marker, a B97, and we're going to put in the darker shade of the water. And again, don't think too much about it. You just want to make sure that you don't go all the way to the middle, that you stay towards the edges, because we want the middle to have a little bit of a reflection. Now I'm going in with a mid-tone, a B93, and I'm going to try to blend the area between the dark blue and the light blue. And now we're going to bring in a B37 just to add in another pretty blue shade to give the water some more depth and interest. And if you don't have these exact shades of blue, or if you're using another alcohol-based marker, just use some blues that you like. You need a light blue, a mid-tone blue, and a dark blue. You could even do this in turquoises, in a light shade, a dark shade, a mid-tone. If you did try to make this painting, this Copic painting with turquoise, I would probably use a neutral gray marker or a warm gray marker instead of the cool gray set that we use for our sky. Okay, now we're gonna shade our mountain ranges, and I'm taking a B99, which is one shade darker than the B77 we use to shade in the base of the mountain. And I'm just gonna add some little stripes along the base of the mountain and let them kind of taper off towards the end so that we get a pretty shadow. Okay, now we're going to make our tree. Just draw a line straight up the side of the cardstock. I'm using a C5 here, and then just make it thicker as you go along the trunk of the tree. Now we're going to add in the branches, and just kind of follow along with what I'm doing, making some pretty Y-shaped branches. Now, because I'm a lefty, I'm starting at the right side of the page and I'm going to the left, but if you're a righty, you can do that branch starting from the left and going to the right, just whatever feels most comfortable for your hand. Now we're gonna draw that second little branch kind of coming out of the top one. And again, this is another branch. If you're righty, you can start on the left side instead of the right like I did. All right, and those are all the branches that we're going to use. Now is another fun part. We're going to draw in the leaves. Here I'm using a B91, and I'm just gonna make a whole bunch of little dots, like oval shaped dots, all along the branches. And for this light shade that we're doing first, you want to have the leaves come out pretty far from the branches, because as we add the darker colors later on, they're going to stay closer and hug closer to the branches. So think of this as kind of like these leaves are going to be the, like the pretty halo around the darker leaves. Okay, so I fast forwarded a little bit and I filled in the rest of the leaves with a B91, and now I'm going to go over them again with a B95. I'm not trying to place the dots directly on top of the B91s, just kind of around and near them, and I'm making these dots a little bit smaller than the ones I put in with B91, and I'm trying to get them to extend out a little further on the tips of the branches than the B91 did. The B93 is really important to add a lot of on the left side of the painting, because that's the side where we have the darker C5 cool gray sky, so the B91 isn't going to show up as well. So you'll need to really add a lot of the B93 dots on the left side. Now we're going to add our darkest shade, B37, and I'm going to add less of these dots than we did the other two, but I'm going to try to keep them very, very close to the branches so that they almost cover up the branches, because we don't want to see that much of the branch in the finished painting. So again, like I'm just hugging the branches and extending it out kind of wherever it just looks like it needs a darker pop of blue. Don't think too much about this, just kind of have fun and draw in your dark little leaves and it'll come out great. Now I'm going to come in with a B45 just to add a little bit more interest to the different blues that we're using. This is not necessary. This is a step that you could skip, and you could just use more of your B93 if you like, and if you feel that your tree needs more volume. Here I'm taking my C1 marker, and I'm just gonna draw in some little shadows and craters into the moon where there aren't branches. This isn't so important. You can't really see it. It's just a little detail. You can skip it if you like, but if you do it, just add a few craters where there aren't branches and add some shading to the left side of the moon, but leave the very outer edge of the moon white so that it looks like there's a little halo around the moon. Now I am going to shade the tree, and I'm using a C7, just going up alongside the right side of the tree. And then I'm going to darken the branches as well. And I'm trying to go in between the leaves because I don't want the branch to look like a straight black line. I want it to look like it's kind of peeking out from underneath the leaves. So you're just going to go through all of your branches and do that. Just kind of darken it up wherever it looks like there's a gap in the leaves. And here I thought my tree looked a little bit naked on the left side, so I just drew in another branch with my C7, and I'm just going to add some more leaves in the mid-tone and then the dark tone, just to fill in the left side of the page. Now we're just going to add the grass around the tree, and I'm using a C5, and I'm just going in a flicking motion from the bottom up to maybe about a third of the way up the tree. I probably went up a little too high. You don't need to do that. You could if you like, but you can make your grass a little shorter. Now I'm going in with a C7 just to add some darker pieces of grass in front, and then to kind of shade in the ground in front of the tree. And again, after I used the C7, I went back in with a C5 just to lengthen out the foliage a little bit. Here I'm going in with a white gel pen, and I'm just gonna add some highlights to the grass. Here I'm taking my B93 Copic marker, and I'm just gonna add some falling leaves that fall down from the tree and go into the water. And then I'm gonna go over some of those dots with my B97 and then a B45. And again, it doesn't matter which blues you use here, just as long as you use a light, a mid-tone, and a dark tone. Next, I'm just going to add some white highlights to the leaves that are falling. Maybe not the way to think of it are highlights. It's more, I'm thinking of it as the pollen that's kind of, blowing around in the wind around the tree. And I want those little white dots to form a halo around the blue leaves that are on the tree. So they're going to extend out a little bit further than the leaves, but then they're also going to cover parts of the leaves as well. And you want to try to hit the white dots on as many of the dark blue leaves as possible, because those are the leaves where it will show up the best. It's not going to, the white's not going to show up so well on the lighter blue or on the gray. It'll show up on the black of the tree branch and then the dark blue of the leaves. So you want to try to hit those marks as much as you can without covering up too much of the dark, but then also making sure that the halo of the little white dots extends out beyond that, so that it gives it this kind of wispy, whimsical, magical look. All right, so we're done. Just take the tape off of your cardstock, and now it is time to turn this into a card. I'm going to use a sentiment from the Hero Arts Come Fly With Me stamp set. That was one of the add-ons for the February kit. And before we add the sentiment, I'm just going to put our little Copic painting onto an A2 size card base. Now stamping the sentiment with VersaFine ink, and we're done. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I really hope that you try to make this card. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't use a lot of supplies, only takes about 20 to 30 minutes to make, and whoever you send it to, I think will be really impressed, and you'll have a great time making it. Have a great night.